management consultant, right? So he probably should, if he had talked to us before this morning, he probably would have said, I don't know if you want to take this risk. But we're really glad that Josh is here today. He also has an 11-year-old daughter with CF, Lauren. And he just wants to tell us a little bit about what Great Strides means for him and his family. Josh, we really want to thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you. Before I do get started, my wife, Melissa, is the one with the camera. Is in red, and that's my son, Julian, sitting down there.
And note, he took the black theme to heart.
Yeah, I didn't know it was going to go to this extent. So a couple of weeks ago, when Jody Leonard asked me to speak, said yes without a doubt. Anything to help the Great Strides cause. About 3 seconds after I hung up, that's when I started to panic because I've never done this before. Spoken to a lot of crowds, various topics. He's a risk consultant. Getting in front of people is not necessarily a difficult thing, but I've never had to speak about myself before. So I started thinking about it. Here's a group of people, and I got a little bit of a background from, what was going on. You guys don't get to interact with CF patients a lot, or people living with the condition. So I was like, how can I convey any of this to a group of people that, they know what it's about, know the condition, have seen it, read it, blah, blah, blah. How can I describe that? So I started talking to my wife, and how the same things that I just said to you. And that turned into an argument. And it really, it kind of spiraled out of control. I can't explain living with CF to you as my wife. As somebody that I care about, love. How am I going to do it? To total strangers. Well, that didn't end well. It just didn't end well. So a couple of days later, I'm still thinking, I'm really not coming up with anything. I can go through every ache and pain that I've ever had, describe the lung disease part of it, describe the breathlessness or this or that. And that didn't really seem to fit in the theme here, rally the troops, and here we go with, Great Stride season. So I figured I'd just give you a little bit, of background about myself. Like Mary said, 34. Born in the mid-'70s. Not a lot of progress at that time. The foundation had been around. They started their accredited care program. But a lot of the treatment seemed, as bad as the disease. There was a lot of, random things going on, at least, in the life of a little kid. Smelly enzymes and, not particularly appetizing. There wasn't a whole lot of what we have now just in general medicine. Before I was 5, I had a cousin who had CF, second cousin, very close to my mother. She was born in '54. When I was 4, she passed away. Now, I already knew that, she had CF, I had CF. So really before what I knew what CF was, I had already equated it with death. And that's probably the biggest thing for me, because I've been, fairly blessed with, good health as far as a CF person is concerned. But, then it was initially a mental roadblock. And I think that's where, I think a lot of people come, to think that CF is a death sentence. And, for the most part it is, at least right now. But I want to talk about that a little bit later. So then it becomes a factor in everything that you do growing up. How you get up in the morning, what you do at school, what you do at work. Every single thing is always CF. What am I going to do today? Rock and roll theme, live fast, die young. And unfortunately you see, some examples on TV, that's exactly what happens. I will say CF contributed to me getting married early and getting divorced early. This is my second marriage. It's not it's not something, to say jokingly, but it's, you look at life on a curve. And it's always the 900-pound gorilla in the room too. Like I said, I've never spoken about myself before because it's something that you don't discuss necessarily. You can discuss the symptoms, you can discuss the treatment, you don't discuss how you feel. And unfortunately, that's part of the mentality that I've seen with a lot of people. So how do you get past that? Well, for me, it actually came very recently. February 3rd, the State of the Science. Now, I had read about the Vertex studies, but on paper, that doesn't necessarily seem like a whole lot. At least to me, you're talking about 77 or the 770 program. That's for people who have one, 508 and some other. There's also the other one. Well, how do these two correspond? Actually hearing that talked about and how the research is being done was a great motivator here for me to be able to come up and say, okay, this is what this is about. It's about tomorrow. We're this close to reaching the top of the mountain. Not necessarily for a cure, but like Dr. Campbell said, you live with the disease, but you don't die from it. And that's the biggest thing. The whole adding tomorrows every day, that's not a load of BS. It is exactly what you do. Every single one of you, whether it's Great Strides or just what you do here at the foundation, everything has its part to play in adding those tomorrows. So I'm sitting, it's like 2 o'clock Thursday morning, in the morning. I woke up, first thought always is, am I alive or am I dead? Because that's just the way my mind thinks. So wake up, it's dark, and I'm not coughing, so that kind of made me, wonder if I was dead. And then some, random pain. I think it was my knee. Okay, pain. I'm not dead, which was kind of, it's a relief, but at the same time, when you're waking up and there's something hurting, it's not necessarily the greatest thing to wake up to. So I'm sitting there kind of staring at the ceiling, and it's dark, and I started thinking about that thing, adding tomorrows every day. Well, for me, that's come this Friday, 12,500 tomorrows. If you look back a couple of years, like I said, everything has a part to play. 10 years ago, my doctor was able to write a letter recommending that I be allowed to adopt. So thanks to what you guys do, I've had the opportunity to have 3,500 hugs and kisses from my son. I mentioned that this is my second marriage. Well, when Lauren and Melissa moved here from Kentucky, because of your work with establishing accredited care centers, she was able to move here and continue the treatment that she had in Kentucky, pretty much the same here, which is good. I know a lot of people don't have that, and that's a continuing thing that everybody's working on. Well, we'll get into a little bit why we're here with the Great Strides. The only thing that I want to point out is no matter how big or how small everybody's contribution is, it takes a whole lot of material. I've got a little bit of a construction background aside from the risk management. Spent a lot of time on construction sites. That was probably not the best thing for my health, but spent a lot of time there. When you're building a house, there's going to be people that bring the wood. There's going to be people that bring the bricks and the cement and everything else and all the big pieces. But you have to have everything that attaches it. You have to have the nails. You have to have the glue. You have to have the shingles for the roof. And that's what I think that, my biggest thing to all of you would be as you move forward with Great Strides is that it doesn't matter if it's $1. It doesn't matter if it's $1.50. That's the price of a soda. That's what I've tried to convey to some of my friends when asking, hey, can you, sacrifice a case of beer this week? Depending on what you drink, that could be anywhere from $5 to whatever. Maybe a bottle of wine. But moving forward and going through the season, that's what I would say. anything counts. You know, and it may just be telling somebody that you do work for the CFF, because I can't tell you how many people I run into that have never even heard of CF, let alone, you know, the fact that there's an entire organization dedicated to curing the disease. So, you know, just mention it to the folks that, you know, you're around, the folks that, you know, maybe you haven't said, this is where I work. What do you do? Well, I'm an accountant, or I work in HR. Mention where it is. I think that's the key. You know, get the thing out there. This is the CFF, and we have to, you know, we have to get to that mountain. There's still a lot of money to be raised. There's still a lot of work to do.